Well, hey there, this is Jerry, and I was getting started on another episode of What's Broke Today. And today I'm getting started on the third part of my Ram 5500. Um, I used up so much time working on the dump bed. That made an episode. Working on the toolbox door and like the tail light and the trailer plug. By the time I got done with all that other little stuff, I'd run up another 30 plus minute video. And I know the brakes probably going to take well over 30 minutes of video time because I was dealing with this rust, I found everywhere. I don't know how much time I have in brakes, but I know I'll definitely have plenty of video for to post, to go with this segment. Well, let's get started on the Dodge, and I'll be back shortly. Well, I took the truck for a drive, and when I stepped on the brakes, it went to the right. It wasn't the same kind of pull as I felt like, say, if I had a brake that was not working properly. I may end up looking at the rear, but what I ended up doing is I think it's a tire. So I took the right front and left front tires and flip-flopped them, and still got to go drive it. I got the oil changed. Air filter looked good, coolant looked good, transmission fluid. He had complained about a humming or kind of sound from the power steering and the brakes. And this has hydro boost brakes. It was very low on power steering fluid. What I don't know is where it went, because there's no signs of a leak. So it's almost like it evaporated. I don't think it can, but it does use ATF plus 4. I topped it off. That took care of the, got the air out of it, and then that took care of those issues of that. Because what we was feeling was it pumping air through the system. What worries me is I don't know how long it's driven with it low. The fluid is very dirty. Kind of has that graphite-y look. So we may be getting in there doing other fixes, because that's circulating clear through the hydro boost, through the power steering gear, and through the power steering pump. At this point, I'm just going to leave it alone, because that's going to be a very expensive thing to fix and do it right. So we're just going to leave it alone for now. It's almost getting kind of dark. I think I'm going to wrap up for tonight, and then I'll get around and take it for a test drive tomorrow, and we'll see what happens with the brakes. Okay, well, I've got the wheels back off the Dodge. The brakes still, I have a pull to the left, or I have a pull to the right when I step on the brakes. It is not a severe pull, but it's definitely one of those things, if you didn't have your hand on the steering wheel, you'd end up in the ditch. So, and that's with an empty truck. Hate to guess what it'd be like if we was loaded. So, and school of thought says, which side do we address? Do we look at the right side for hanging up, or do we look at the left side for maybe not applying as much brake as it should? So when you're not on the brakes, everything seems to spin free. So, and I took a pry bar and stuck in between the brake pedal and the seat, just to see how the everything seemed to work. If I just applied a little bit of pressure, and applying a little bit of pressure, it stopped both wheels fairly evenly. So now we go to doing visual inspections, and right off the bat, this caliper, the boot, which had been on the upper piston, is all torn. Um, Probably about a third of the way around. And these pads are not moving very freely in the caliper bracket either. So now in the overall, and these pads are thick, so I don't think they're that old. And if there is any uneven wear, it is very minimal because it's not visible. You know, me looking at it, um, there, and see how that is seized up in there. My other thought is if the fronts are this way, I wonder what the rears are like. Because right now that top end of this inboard pad should just fall out of there, and it is rusted in there big time. Now the rotor looks, visibly it has a bunch of real little lines in it. There's a small lip on this outer rim, but not much. It's less than a 1/16 of an inch on the inside and even less on the outside. But these not sliding freely in these brackets is a definite problem. But what I'll have to do is go get a C-clamp, because it really makes me wonder if I go to push this upper piston in, if it'll even go, because it is very nasty up in that bore where that piston goes. I'll bring this up a little closer where you can see, but it's torn from here clear around to down here. And that rubber on that boot feels very brittle. Right, now I come to the passenger side. You'll see there's a lot of mud and stuff there on the caliper and the bracket. Don't know what that's from. Another thing I look at, which I didn't mention on the other side, is where the bolts go in, hold the caliper to the bracket. These pins need to move freely. We don't want no binding or resistance there. I come to this side. Both boots have holes in them. But let's see. That came out better than it did on the other side. Where that one's about the same on the top. The bottom moves good, but the top is definitely seized. But yeah, it's not good, but the pads themselves, aren't terrible. They don't show any signs of overheating. Rotor on this side is a lot like the other one. Uh, got a bunch of those little grooves, but other than that, it is smooth. Um, I think what I'm going to do is go get a C-clamp and see if how these pistons move, because the brackets seem okay. But I'm going to try to push, and I'll get 2 C-clamps so I can push both pistons in, because otherwise a lot of times you go to push this one in, the other one wants to pop out. So I'll get 2 C-clamps and then I'll be back. I'm starting out here on the passenger side. I get my first C-clamp. That almost ain't big enough. Gotta back that out all the way. There's a hump in the back side of the caliper that's kind of hindering. I'm gonna make sure that I got the pad up high enough that it's not laying on the caliper. I'll back both of these out all the way. Let's just slowly. Okay, the top, or I guess, yeah, that'd be the top piston. Doesn't move near as freely as the bottom one. Going back in. I mean, it goes in, but I have to put a lot more effort into the C-clamp. Yeah. This caliper definitely needs replaced. All right, here on the driver's side, that's set up, and make sure we're not touching the caliper. Oh yeah. That does not want to push back in very well. And see that yeah, that top piston, that does not work very well at all. Another thing I wonder is if this thing needs a brake hose, because that's why I was wanting to loosen the bleeder screw. Maybe I'll just see if I can loosen that nut on the brake hose. That down there. Okay, we'll call that 15. Is what I was able to drive on there. Now, let's just loosen that up a little. Let's see if that helps this push in. Oh yeah, that does push in easier with the hose disconnected. So I wonder if we got a hose that's collapsing. And of course, I got brake fluid all over the rotor. Yeah, because that does not push back in near as easy, and then I loosen that, it squirts. Okay, well, I looked up parts. I entered the VIN number off the truck, so I hopefully got the right parts. Yeah, so I'm going to get calipers, new brake hoses, and yeah, we'll just go from there. That I went ahead and saved me another trip into town. I putting vice grip on the old brake hose. So when I pop this off here, I won't leak brake fluid. Plus that'll give me, I'll be able to take the caliper in and drop it off for the core. And then I'll come back and we'll get all this put back together, and hopefully, I don't know if I have to dig into the rear brakes or not, but at least with getting new caliper brackets, should alleviate the worry of those pads binding in these existing brackets, because otherwise I'd have to pull the brackets off, take them out, and take the stainless steel clips out and bead blast where the pads go. So it's so much easier to just swap it out and be done. So I'm going to take caliper, brackets, bolt those, drain the fluid out, of course, get it ready, and go pick up some parts. Well, back at our Ram 5500, went and got caliper. Actually, two calipers. And of course, I'm going to start out with getting those bolts out that hook the caliper to the bracket, and then taking these little spring clips and going ahead and installing them. And of course, these go, these clips have, hook on one side and then this funny little loop. The loop goes away from the rotor. Okay, and then we can hold that up there. And I did go ahead and rinse where I got brake fluid on the rotor yesterday. I went ahead and rinsed it off. And the information on this is these big bolts holding this caliper bracket on. I ended up with my breakover bar and a 4-foot piece of pipe to get the damn things loose. I know they need to be tight, but well, I didn't think they needed to be that tight. But that also could have just been rust from age too. I'll put it on my breakover bar, and then just take my dead blow hammer and get those up there. I got my brake grease. I'm going to start out with my inboard pad. I think I can put it up there first. Because I don't think the tight fit of this was related to the pad. So hopefully this don't prove me wrong. I was hoping that would slide down in there. Oh yeah, that slid in there super easy. And I don't know, my little brush. There we go. Little flakes of stuff off those pads. Okay, once we get those up there, then I got my new bolts. And of course, got to make sure the caliper, you put them on the right or the correct side. And of course, this is the left side, and the bleeder screw always goes up. Our bolts started. God, I did bring a 15mm wrench, because I'm going to do the same thing here. Tighten that up. I have to get something to hold that bottom one. And now I got to figure out which brake hose goes on which side. And of course, this did come with new copper washers, but so did the caliper. So let's see. This is going to be the passenger side. Because I went back to the online lookup to see if it'd tell me. And of course, it did not. All right, so that's perfect. So I get my new bolt with a copper washer, a second copper washer that unhooked off my foot. Of course, I can put that on there. And all right, that's that. Don't need. I got a 13mm socket, which should be what I need to unbolt that from the frame down there. And then I'm going to take my ABS wire and dislodge it from the old hose. Oh. There we go. That out of there. We can turn that around like that, and I need a pair of pliers to pull the clip. And then if I measured right, or checked right, our brake line up here is 12mm. So of course I'm blocking the camera, but sorry about that. Okay, so I went and got a different wrench, and this is actually an old, I probably had this thing for 25 years. A snap-on wrench that 12mm has with their so-called flank drive. So, let's see. There we go. Got it to turn. Of course, when I'm sitting here with plastic in the way, it's hard to see. So, see if I can get the plastic pulled back. Ooh, and that, we might end up having to take this line loose at the caliper and do that a little different, because it looks like I'm just twisting the line. I'm not, it's not really trying to come loose, and the nut turn on the um, hard line. Okay, there's our clip off. That is it out and look, and that's just kind of clipped around there. Hold it. That might be an easy thing. It looks like it might have a latch. There we go. Okay, that makes more sense. Never changed the hose on one of these. So, oh, that's the battery cable, I bet, for the dump bed. Pull that down out of there, and then should be able to pull that down enough, maybe to rotate it. Let's see. Pliers. Get this out of the way, because that kind of hampers my pair of pliers where I want to put them, along with the battery cable being in the way. Okay, let's try this again. There we go. Okay, there's that. Now we got to come back here and and do the same thing to put this new one back up on there. And we got to go up through here, like so. I ended with my hand in the way of my light. There we go. Both the back end of this hose flopping around. Oh. That back in there. Let's bring this down here. Oh, let's go ahead and put it on the caliper, because it's peeing brake fluid on me already. Get that back up in its spot. I can get this clip started. I can push that up there. I can reach up here with my wrench and tighten that. Well, there's one side assembled. Now what we got to do is assemble the other side and then bleed out some brakes. And you've seen me fight one side. I'm probably not going to I don't think there's no need for me to film the other side because I'm going to do the exact same thing I did here. Um, it's just everything's the opposite, so no big deal. I'll come back when I get ready to do some bleeding. Well, I've already done some gravity bleeding on the other side. So now I was going to come over to this side and just loosen that bleeder screw and let it gravity bleed. And that'll get the worst of the air out of it. And then we'll do we'll pump the brake pedal a few times and work to get the rest of the air out. I don't know how long this will. It took a while on the other side. I was able to pick up tools and get a few things done before it started coming out. And I just let it come out for, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds and then shut it off. Well, that didn't take as long as I thought it would. So I had fluid coming out. So now I'm going to get in the truck and I'm just going to use my hand and push the brake pedal down. There's one. And we'll just come up here and for now we'll do some more gravity bleeding and I'm just going to open that up and see there's more air. We'll give that a small break. Let it drip a little and then I'm going to go to the other side and do the same thing I just did here. All right, now that I've let the other side bleed a little more, I'm going to come inside. I'm going to take my pry bar, put it on the pedal, and up against the seat. Now I'm just going to take the seat, slide it as far forward as I can. Now come here and loosen my bleeder screw. There was a spit of air. Okay. Now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to let off the brake pedal and get the pry bar out and then reset the pry bar in between the seat and the pedal. Here we go. I just repeat this till I get no more air. And see there, I got more air. Bring the camera back. So you can see what I got is a pry bar, and see this is the seat that releases from the bottom. And I'll just take this out, reset it, and then I'll just put my arm in between the seat and the door jamb and just push it as far forward as I can and let it collapse into the seat. Okay, of course, make sure you keep the master cylinder full. That I just added a little bit more fluid. Because if you run the master cylinder dry, this is all for nothing because you have to start all over. But every time I get a little spit of air, I get a better brake pedal. And I want to continue this until I get no more spits of air. Okay. I'm going to say that's probably good. And of course, I rinse everything off with some brake clean. I don't want to leave residue that someone's going to look underneath here and go, I think I got a brake fluid leak. I see brake fluid on the bottom side. So let me take my pan and let's go to the other side. Well, I went ahead and reset the pry bar before I came back to the camera, just so I had no need in turning it on and walking over there and doing it. Now you saw a pretty good spit out of this one. Let's go reset the pry bar again. All right. Okay, well, I think I'm going to call that good. Of course, I can go on the other side. Wash everything off with some brake clean. I believe I am ready to put the wheels back on this and take it for another test drive and see how it does. Well, our Dodge Ram 5500 is done. Of course, previous video you saw me fixing the lift on the where that pin was broke off on the hydraulic lift on the bed. This go around, I got the door put back on the toolbox. I got the plug put back on the rear of the truck. And I also took my test light and made sure that, it was getting its, turn signals, tail lights, and everything going to that. Got the front brakes fixed. That all that with it pulling between the pistons and the calipers hanging up and the pads being hanging up in the bracket, if that stuff doesn't move freely, then it can either apply unevenly or it can actually apply, stick, and not release. That luckily that someone already put pads on it, and when they did pads, when they had trouble putting them back in the brackets, they should have been doing something to free things up and realize that we need calipers. So, and then also we had the brake hose on the left side, I think was collapsing, so I did brake hoses on both sides. I put a fuse in for the trailer tow harness, or for the trailer tow, that there was one missing, and I think that was the main fuse that is like an auxiliary fuse, because typically you're going to pull a trailer behind this that has a where if the trailer breaks free, it'll apply the brakes and set them, because there'll be a little tiny battery mounted on the trailer for the brakes. That fuse was gone. See what else. Yeah, I think that's about it. Oh, I put a bulb in the tail light in the right rear. That the when it set on the dash, that right rear tail light, it's smart enough. It knew that his right rear tail light bulb was bad. Had both filaments were burnt out. So, but it's ready to go home. I'm glad it's done. I've probably got over 20 hours in this truck. I really should have done a better job of keeping track of time. But I got a lot of hours in it regardless. But hey, I do appreciate you watching. I always like those thumbs up for the likes. I appreciate all those comments. And anybody out there that's not a subscriber, better join on in because I'll tell them what else you're going to see on What's Broke Today. Thank you.